days of decision. Every day is a day of decision. Every moment is a moment of decision. Do I go this way or do I go that way? We, as a civilization, we as a human species are now in a moment of decision. And I'm going to suggest that the decision is between the material way and the spiritual way. I'm not saying it's one and not the other. I'm saying it's one first and the other second. We have all, I think, heard the saying that if we do not learn from history, we are fated to repeat it. And I'd like you to know that the Bible is a book that is about many things. And some folks tend to emphasize one aspect. And that aspect that tends to get emphasized is life on earth doesn't matter. What matters is, do you have the blood of Jesus so that when you die, you're going to go to heaven? That's one way of reading the book. But there's another way of reading the book, which is not about what happens after you die, but it's about who are you while you are alive. And my suggestion is that the Bible encourages you, each of you, all of us together, to be light in the darkness. History is a pattern. History begins on a level surface. Power begins to generate authority, and that authority begins to lift up persons, and they begin to be the ones who call the shots, in a manner of speaking. They're the ones who say, this is how it's going to be, and you folks are going to follow, or else. History is a pattern of rise and fall. And it's very important for each of us as a human being to recognize, where are we in that pattern just now? And by recognizing where we are, we can develop strategies for dealing with the circumstance that confronts us. And not just the circumstance of the immediate moment, but the circumstance that is approaching from the future, coming to have its way with us. Now, the text about Jesus is a text about a person like us, a human being, wholly animated by the Spirit. That is to say, Jesus had concern not for the material being of the world. He was content to let that be as it was. Jesus was concerned with the spiritual being. Jesus was aware that history was going through a great change. The Roman Empire was on the verge of collapse, where once it had been honorable and dignified, it was now corrupt and greedy. Jesus was speaking to the people of the land who languished, who suffered under the jurisdiction of power which served itself. Jesus speaks about the end of times. Jesus speaks about the great change that is coming. Jesus speaks about signs and symbols that we ought to be aware of. He was speaking to people in his day, but through the text, through the narrative of the Bible, Jesus also speaks to us. And what was going on in the days of Jesus may be going on just now. We may be at the end of a historic epoch. That is to say, we have risen as a civilization. We have gotten to this point where we look around and we say, man, haven't we done wonderful things? I mean, is there anything more amazing than this? This has me in touch with the whole wide world. And that's a little bit like the folks saying, my goodness, the temple is so beautiful, it's so ornate, it's so dignified. And what they were saying is, look what we've done. Look at how good this is. Aren't we proud? And I'm going to suggest that pride is not a good quality in our human being. Pride tends to lead us to fall. Pride tends to cause us to stumble. Pride tends to lead to disaster. And in the days of Jesus, the people at the top, the political people, the senators, etc., they were proud of what they had achieved. They were proud of the good that they had on their table. They were proud of the good that they wore in their wardrobes. And the sad thing is, in the day of Jesus, the priests in the temple were aligned with the political powers. They had become corrupt. And the priests and the temple was not about helping the people to be comfortable, to be encouraged, to be strengthened for their life in the world, but the temple was all about getting money out of the population to keep the temple going, to keep the salaries of the priests going, to keep the salaries of the politicians going, to keep power in play. Jesus is against it. Jesus says there's an alternative. And what Jesus says to the people is, when things seem to be getting very dark, when there's all kinds of things happening in history, and we're pretty aware now that all kinds of things are happening in our historic moment. Every time you turn on the radio or the television, you will hear news about somebody fighting with somebody else. More and more, the world is being divided. And that connects to a saying, divide and conquer. The power that is ruling our world, the power that is destroying our world, wants us to be divided. They don't want us to be united. They don't want us to cooperate. They want us to be individuals doing our own thing for our own satisfaction. Jesus does not offer that alternative. Jesus says, grow in the Spirit, cultivate your inner being, cultivate your peace, cultivate your generosity, cultivate your trust, cultivate all these things that make your life truly rich. Jesus is speaking to the people about an alternative to the way of power in the world, and that's the way of love. Now we recognize that our world is in deep trouble now, and that trouble may infect us. We may get discouraged. We may feel disappointed. We may wonder where it's all going. But the text in Isaiah says that no matter how hard life gets, we have a resource. And that resource is spiritual. It's not tangible. You can't put your hand on it. You can't grab it. You can't put it on a shelf. It's like the wind. Nobody knows where it comes from. Nobody knows where it's going. But once that spirit takes root in you, it has the ability to cast out all the circumstantial things that are bringing you down, that are discouraging you. The Spirit is like light in the dark. When you walk in the dark, you can't see where you're going. When you have a little candle, your feet know the way frontwards, confidently. And as each of us lifts up our little light, and as all of us lift up our lights together, the world becomes a brighter place. But it depends on us not being passive in the face of power. It depends on us knowing what we want. We want for ourselves, what we want for our families, what we want for our neighborhood, what we want for our city and for our world. We want peace. That's the deep, deep hunger in us. And that hunger is now being offered a remedy. That hunger is now being offered from food. And it's not tangible food, it's spiritual food. It says in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. I'm speaking to you. My Spirit is communicating to you as well. And what I am hoping to do is to encourage you to look again at what is the meaning of your life. And I would like to encourage you to center yourself not in the circumstantial world. That's passive. But to center yourself in the spiritual world, that place within you where the love of God is present and waiting, eager to go out into the world and make a difference. We in the church are not about religion. We may have been at one time, but we're realizing that religion is not the answer. The answer is human beings ready to love other human beings, to forgive trespasses, to accept persons just as they are, not to judge on appearances, but to recognize that inside of every human being, the Spirit of God dwells and is waiting to be stirred up. So I encourage you to let the love of God flow through you like a mighty river. And as it flows through you, let it cleanse all the dirt and all the detritus of this world, so that you be liberated to make a difference, so that your light so shines that everyone sees the good that you do, but you don't take the credit, you give the credit to God.